This topic of Buddhism is very intriguing. Here we have Buddha sitting under the pipal tree, which he attained enlightenment after obtaining the knowledge on how to reach nirvana. He remained beneath the tree another week, contemplating the nature of the tree and admiring its beauty. You see here snakes giving wisdom to Buddha and how to attain enlightenment. You also have a snake underneath him as well, coiled up, kind of reminiscent of the Garden of Eden, with the snake there tempting Adam and Eve with knowledge. Now, this is not the only thing you can find like this. There's actually a lot of this. Usually the snakes are almost always in these type of pictures of Buddha. Not all of them, but often. You also have the dragon, although this is difficult to see here. This is a dragon's face. Dragons are often very common with Buddha pictures. This is a celestial Buddha here. I'm wondering if these are the supposed to be the snakes themselves, because often it will have little snakes pointing in. And this is sort of like more dragons behind him. Here you see demons around him, often with bird faces and such. And I'm going to play a video in a minute here from a guy who's basically exposing Buddha. You see this demon above him, which looks like Baphomet. It's also both sexes, but it has a bird's face and bird's feet, which also commonly you'll find certain older depictions of the devil as having a bird's face. Okay, and this actually also echoes back to Egyptian hieroglyphics of Hermes or Thoth, which is the false god of knowledge. Maybe I should pull that up. You have the emerald tablets of Thoth, which were found at the top of the pyramid at Giza, and you have this fallen angel. I'm suspecting a cherubim that was giving this knowledge to Hermes Trismegistus, which was a prophet, alleged child of this god. Okay, and these emerald tablets are written in Phoenician, which is Paleo-Hebrew. Paleo-Hebrew is what the original Hebrew Old Testament was written in. It's considered the language of heaven. Of course, if you have fallen angels, they would speak the original language of heaven, which would be Paleo-Hebrew. I'm trying to find a better picture of how it's written, so you get an idea there. It's written on an emerald tablet, literally. And you know, a lot of people think, oh, this is just fairy tales. No, actually, it has a bird's face, the exact same as this. This has a bird's face. Okay? And I've already found actually some connections, not even really looking a lot into this. You see a lot of connections. I read some stuff already that connects it sort of back to the Egyptian religions. The lotus, the universal symbol of the lotus, which is what Buddha is sitting on here. Okay? And I think it's sort of a false Holy Spirit. Okay? You know how the devil likes to counterfeit everything. Something I forgot to mention real quick here. The lotus is a twofold type of divine and human hermaphrodite. So again, we have this Baphomet type of concept. You see here. Trying to get it to where it shows it. Here we go. It's Baphomet concept of hermaphrodite with being dual sex, so basically pointing to that. And then also it mentioned about the sun being the center. Where is it at? Here we go. The universe evolving from a central sun. Now, this may not sound like anything to people when they just read this and are not aware of sort of the history of this mystery Babylon, but the emerald tablets of Thoth say the exact same thing. I pulled those up a minute ago. Here we go. They say that everything comes from the sun, S-U-N, okay? And this is, Nimrod. Nimrod is the sun god. Semiramis is the moon god, okay? And Copernicus and Galileo were both Hermeticists, which means they were followers of Hermes or Thoth. They're the same false god, the false god of knowledge. The knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Buddha sitting under the tree of knowledge and good and evil. Okay, see how this stuff all ties in? Copernicus and Galileo both were reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and that's where they got their concept of heliocentrism from, that the sun is in the center and everything worships the sun or derives from the sun. Okay? This is where Copernicus originally got his idea to have the earth spinning around the sun, was from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Okay? And you can see here, this is the lotus symbol, which is sort of universal between all these various religions. And the lotus symbol is saying we came from a central sun. It also is, it points to this hermaphrodite being symbology. And so we have here the lotus, and we have here this demon, which is a hermaphrodite, which is equivalent in symbology. So that lotus flower or this are equivalent, and both of them are in these various Buddha murals or paintings or whatever you want to call them. So I just thought I'd point that out real quick. Okay, 4 angels or genie. This is what the Muslims call the demons, which are basically the fallen angels, 4 quarters of heaven. So we see here, just like what we see with the pseudepigraphia, like the Book of Enoch and all these books that the church essentially tried to close the doors on. I mean, the Book of Enoch was pretty much lost until it was the late 1700s, I think it was, when it was rediscovered in Africa. The Catholic Church pretty much got rid of it. And 2nd Esdras chapter 13 predicts that they would get rid of these books. These books would be hidden. We call it also the Apocrypha, and the term Apocrypha means hidden. Talk a lot about the 4 quarters of heaven, talk about fallen angels and genies, and this is where you get the connection. If you go far enough back, a lot of these ancient texts say very similar things. It's just you get perversions, like the Sumerian tablets have perversions of what really occurred, okay, in the Garden of Eden. So you have the devil counterfeiting what was really happening in the Garden of Eden. You have the devil counterfeiting what happened in the flood. That's why you have numerous flood stories. You have the Sumerian flood story. You have I think it's about 40 different flood stories from all major cultures around the world. And I think a lot of that can be contributed to the fact that, at the Tower of Babel got confused the languages, and they all dispersed with the languages of each region, and they had still the same false gods. They came from Sumer. This is where the Tower of Babel was. This is where the Sumerian tablets were found. They came from there. They all dispersed. Same false gods. Same false Babylonian trinity. But they took it to their whatever region they went to, and then they built their religion from there. And then a lot of that ancient stuff was lost. And what you see today is Buddhism. Actually, Buddhism came out of Hinduism. I'm going to cover that in a second. But you see Hinduism. You see elements of other Eastern religions like Taoism, Shintoism even, where they claim to be descendants of gods. And then this is also like the Egyptians with their religion. And then, of course, you have Islam, which people don't think comes from this, but it also does. Mecca, if you look at Mecca, they essentially what Muhammad did was he took the pagan gods and got rid of all of them but one, Allah, the moon god, which is basically Semiramis from the Tower of Babel. and which also echoes back to Diana in the Bible. Diana, they say great is Diana, great is Diana, and this is, they say Allah is great, Allah Akbar, right? The exact same thing. The image that fell from heaven. Okay, they said Diana's image fell from heaven. In Islam, the black Kabbalah stone is an image that fell from heaven. Okay, the exact same thing. All this stuff ties together. A lot of people don't realize it does, but it does. You know, with Buddhism, Buddha actually means more than one thing. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, the term Buddha is the avatar of the god Vishnu. Okay, so what Buddhism basically is a heterodoxy or a heretic of Hinduism, because they reject certain parts of Hinduism. It's considered heterodoxy because they're non-theistic. Okay, but then at the same time, the Buddhists, what they did is they basically declared Buddha to be the avatar of Vishnu, so they're claiming he's a god. That's why they have all these idols of Buddha everywhere. So even though they claim they're, you know, they take away all the deities, they still retain one deity, which is very much like what Islam did. They removed all the pagan deities and just retained one deity, the moon, false moon god, Allah. Okay? All that stuff, stoning the devil, everything they do in Mecca, they did before Islam even existed. All that stuff. They just incorporated it into Islam. And in a sense, Christianity was perverted in a similar manner at the time of Constantine, 300 in the 300 AD range, when they basically melded Sol Invictus worship with Christianity, sun worship. And Sol Invictus, even after Constantine allegedly became a Christian, he was still talking about these false gods, as if they still existed, and he was still revering them, and even had coinage with him next to Sol Invictus on the coinage, and changed Christian holidays to become pagan holidays, Easter and Christmas, which are on, you know, winter solstice, on pagan, basically the Mystery Babylon holidays, okay, which a lot of Christians are not aware of still, obviously. They think they're Christian holidays, but they again came from this paganism. So the devil was able to get this Babylonian religion into all the religions. He tried to. With Christianity, obviously, there's many Christians that reject all the paganism in Christianity, right? Matter of fact, a lot of the Protestants that came to America were very much against Easter and Christmas. A lot of Christians are not aware of that. Catholicism brought it back into America and made it popular. Now Protestants celebrate Christmas and Easter just like everyone else does. So, but I'm kind of going all over the place. But I wanted to just hit mainly on Buddhism, but I wanted to kind of tie in some of the other religions and show you how all this stuff points back to Babylon, because it all does. Okay, Buddhism came from Hinduism. Hinduism came from the Tower of Babel. They also have the mother-child connection with some very ancient understandings of Hinduism. They have the mother-child, the Trinity, the false Trinity, the Father, Mother, Child Trinity. Even in Taoism and some of these other Eastern religions, they have it also. It's pretty much into everything. A lot of people are not aware of this, but I just wanted to kind of hit on this real quick, and then I'm going to show a video that this guy, he exposes this even more, the satanic influence in Buddhism, where basically it was demons giving knowledge to Buddha. And he even asked Buddhist monks about this. Okay, so it's not as if he's just making this up. He's actually asking them, what is this right here? It's a demon. They even call it a demon. Okay? So let's play this video here and you can check it out.
Now let's look at Buddhism. This is Shakyamuni Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. Look at, here's the Buddha. Look at the top. This is called the peacock demon. And I actually asked a Buddhist what this deity was, and they named it the peacock demon. They know that it's a demon. Look, next is the Naga, or the snake beings. Look at characteristics of this peacock demon. Red, female breasts, so androgynous, and I even confirmed this with a Buddhist monk. That is an androgynous being. Bird's head, bird's feet. Look at the similarities between the characteristics of the Baphomet. Instead, here we have goat's head, angelic being with wings, and we have female breasts and male phallus. We don't have the male part here, though, but legs of a goat. So same characteristics, both east and west. Here's a depiction of Michael the archangel slaying Satan, and then you have now a bird characteristics again. So looks like bird characteristics, but in this case looks like bat wings, but could be bird wings. But same characteristics. Look at even the breast as well. So strange things going on east and west. They are interrelated. So this particular being here, this is called the Garuda. You see the Garuda here with female breasts as well, and Garuda Indonesia Airlines. The peacock demon, I couldn't understand this when I first was first described to me, but here is the peacock, and here is that Garuda up above, and that Garuda is holding up, usually holding up a Buddha, and sometimes or a god, that kind of a thing. And so there is this assistance of demons to attain enlightenment, and that is described in Buddhism. And so the Yezid, I can't remember, but there's a tribe. If you look up peacock angel or peacock demon, you get some Yezid tribe, and then you have you can see this image. This image looks very similar to the NBC peacock as well logo. So you look at now Hinduism. Buddha was a Hindu, and therefore Buddhism has the same thing that Hinduism has. And you see all these serpents that represent wisdom. Of course, that is the lie, and the Garden of Eden, and that story in Genesis. You can read all about it. That the serpent now is, for the Luciferians, is the savior of man. And look at the adoration of that serpent. These are all dragons in this Buddha description. Very elaborate idols, sculptures going on. Here's the Naga themselves, and you can see now the snakes behind. This is very reminiscent of perhaps Medusa as well. Look at the fiery serpents, brazen serpents, and the description of these. Interesting. There are biblical descriptions of these as well. Look at the that god, this one we saw in the first plate, in the whole part 1, and riding the dragon. And who is the dragon? The Satan and the devil. So Buddha hanging out with the dragon, and the reverence of this, and the idolization of this. Dragons. Now here we have the phoenix and the dragon paired. And this is a pretty key image. The phoenix representing the female aspect, and earth. The dragon representing the heavenly aspect, or male. And so we have this pearl. There is a description of a pearl in the Bible likened to heaven, the kingdom of heaven. So we have an occult description of this with the phoenix and the dragon, and you're going to see some strange things with regard to the pairing of these. I did want to come back to Joseph Campbell and tell you that I remember that Pawns and Kings is about a wizard. It's a fiction story about a wizard who becomes a master of his craft. So there's peculiar things going on with witchcraft and these myths. In addition to that, Joseph Campbell is actually his mentor was Carl Jung, and Carl Jung is known to be a mystic. And the lineage also of Carl Jung is Freud and Nietzsche. And so you have the psychology, no God, all of this. There is a purpose behind all of this. And I just want you to understand and research Joseph Campbell and his lineage and who he's been influenced by with regard to psychology and mysticism even. And it's odd that he would even write a book about a wizard that becomes a master of his craft with regard to Freemasonry. You see the checkerboard on his book cover. So moving along with the Ouroboros, cockatrice, snake and serpent biting the tail, and you have all of this occult imagery. This is alchemy and various astrology signs. Here's the cockatrice, half snake, half bird. And you see the Ouroboros even in Buddhism all the way around now. And it's very similar to that Dharma wheel and this God now covering this earth area. Here's the serpent intertwining the tree of life in Kabbalah. This is the 10 Sephiroth of the Kabbalah, and you can see the serpent around that. Look at the Buddhist symbol yin and yang on tarot card. And so that does not originate in Buddhism. It is an ancient symbol representing this duality, darkness being in light and light being in darkness. The Bible is clear that there is no darkness in God. God is light, and there is no darkness in him. Here's the papacy or the priestess, and then you see the checkerboard pattern. Look at the yin and yang on the book itself. Even the crescent moon up there. This is the Priory de Sion family crest. Moving on to Buddhism as well. Look at the repetitious prayer. This is in Hinduism chanting. Chanting is invoking. And so here's Angelina Jolie with an invoking chanting prayer. And this is, or meditation. And these invoke demons. So look at now the Dalai Lama here. This is just a painting of him. He's got the eye up above. And so, yeah, they can depict him and show him either way, but he is a friend of Rome, and therefore look at the Roman hand of power, sign of the benediction. He says he's not a bad demon, and he puts horns up above. Again, in another section, putting horns up above. Check it out. Some Chinese officials have described me as a demon. I could be a demon with the horns, but I'm not a bad demon. So they do have descriptions of white witches, dark witches, good demons, bad demons, said the Dalai Lama while addressing a program on Mother Teresa in Kolkata. So look, he's describing it. In Buddhism, they have deities and they even have demons and describe them as demons. So we are oblivious to religion as a whole, and I want you to understand Buddha was a Hindu. Hinduism is many gods. Buddha simply cut out a lot of gods. Zen Buddhism is really the culmination into really atheism and the worship of nature and what the characteristics of nature are, peace and balance and all of these things that are Zen Buddhism.